The Cyclist, by Erik Røde, 1755. Read by Annika J. Gandhi. Continued.
Chapter 12, Crossroads. Scene 57, Choices. As he stood there, at the entrance to the main road, drenched and shivering, his resolve wavered. The storm, both outside and within, seemed insurmountable. He felt the weight of futility pressing down on him, threatening to extinguish the ember of hope that had driven him this far. The road ahead, washed out by the relentless rain, appeared endless, winding through the obscurity of the night. Carlo's whole life seemed to flash before him in that pivotal moment. Memories of his son, Angelo, once filled with love and laughter, now carried the heavy burden of estrangement. The bitterness that had festered within him, fueled by past grievances, seemed to taunt him in the relentless downpour. Carlo's inner dialogue: is this really worth it? Is this quest, this noble endeavor, a futile one? I've already lost my son to a world I couldn't understand or accept. What if I lose myself to this storm, to this darkness? Is my pride worth Ponte's suffering? In the midst of his inner turmoil, Carlo paused for a moment. The raindrops, each one a tiny warrior in the storm, pelted his face, forcing him to look deep within himself. He searched his soul for answers, grappling with the overwhelming odds stacked against him. It was a moment of reckoning, a confrontation with his own vulnerability. Carlo's inner dialogue: but isn't this what life is about? Isn't it about taking risks, about fighting against the odds for the ones we love? Ponte's life hangs in the balance, and I'm her only hope. Perhaps, in this moment, I need to let go of my pride, of my resentment, and embrace the possibility of redemption. With these thoughts swirling within him, Carlo decided not to give up on his quest. The overwhelming odds and the relentless tempest had beaten him down. Just as he was ready to throw in the towel, he felt a profound sense of surrender washing over him. Carlo's inner dialogue: it's time to admit defeat, to acknowledge that I can't control everything. Maybe this is the universe's way of telling me that I can't undo the past, but I can choose how I move forward. Scene 58, the wind shifts. In that moment of surrender, Carlo turned away from the road that seemed to stretch endlessly into the night. The rain continued to fall, but it was as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He knew that his decision would have consequences, but he was willing to face them, whatever they may be. In a momentary moment, he imagined retracing his steps back towards the cottage. The rain continued its relentless assault. Carlo's thoughts were a tempest of their own, filled with uncertainty and a glimmer of newfound hope. The storm had tested his resolve, but it had also brought him to a crossroads, a place where he could choose a different path. Carlo's inner dialogue: perhaps, in the face of this storm, I can find a way to rebuild not just the roof that shields us from the rain, but the bridges that connect hearts. Maybe, just maybe, there's a chance for redemption, for reconciliation. And so, determined to move forward with no turning back, Carlo took the first pedal forward. But then, like a distant star piercing through a stormy night, he spotted the glow of headlights, and hope surged within him. Carlo squinted against the glare, raindrops pelting his face, as the large American car came into view, its elegant form an incongruous sight against the rugged, rain-soaked landscape. It was as if a fragment of modernity had crashed into this timeless countryside. With a shout over the raging storm, Carlo signaled to the occupants of the car and shouted, "Hey, over here. What do you need?" The American man, his voice filled with desperation, emerged from the vehicle, rain plastering his clothes to his body. His face was etched with concern, and every step he took seemed to echo the urgency of his mission. "My wife is in the car," he shouted back, his words carried away by the wind and rain. "She is in labor, and we're stuck here. We need to get to the hospital." Scene 59, the stranger's plea. Carlo watched as the stranger approached, the rain creating a shimmering curtain between them. His heart raced, not just from the exertion of his journey but from the sudden weight of responsibility that had fallen upon him. The man's plea was one of desperation, and Carlo couldn't ignore the urgency in his voice. As the distance closed between them, Carlo's gaze shifted from the road ahead to the man beside him. He studied the stranger's features, trying to discern the authenticity of his plea. In that moment, nationality and language seemed insignificant in the face of a shared human experience, the desire to protect and care for loved ones. The stranger's name turned out to be Robert Hendel, an American. Robert's voice, a mixture of anxiety and hope, continued to fill the air. It was a voice that transcended language barriers, carrying with it the universal emotions of love and fear. Carlo felt a connection forming, a bridge between two worlds that had seemed so different just moments ago. As Robert's words hung in the air, Carlo found himself at a crossroads, torn between the weight of his past and the possibility of a new beginning. Memories of his son, the pain of their fractured relationship, and the resentment that had festered over the years surged forward, threatening to engulf him. The rain continued to fall, each drop a reminder of the choices that life presented. Carlo closed his eyes briefly, allowing the sensation of the rain to cleanse his thoughts. It was as if the storm itself was offering him a chance at renewal, a blank canvas upon which he could paint a different narrative. When Carlo's gaze returned to Robert's face, something had shifted within him. The vulnerability he saw mirrored his own, and it was in that shared vulnerability that he found a path forward. With a slow exhale, Carlo extended his hand, a gesture laden with meaning. In that simple act of reaching out, amidst the falling rain, Carlo felt a subtle release. It was as if the water had washed away not only the raindrops on his skin but also the bitterness that had taken root within him. It was a gesture of reconciliation, an unspoken promise to transcend the shackles of the past. As their hands met in the rain, Carlo sensed a glimmer of redemption. It was a chance to rewrite his own story, to embrace the power of empathy and understanding. The rain, now a symbol of cleansing and renewal, continued its steady descent, a reminder that new beginnings could emerge even in the midst of life's storms. Carlo's heart pounded with uncertainty as he stood at the crossroads of a critical choice. On one hand, he couldn't ignore the urgency of the American couple's situation. Their desperate plea for help tugged at his conscience, and he couldn't turn away from someone in need. On the other hand, there was Ponti, his beloved wife, who suffered from a weak heart condition. Every moment counted in her delicate state, and he couldn't bear the thought of leaving her alone in distress. Scene 60, The Divine Plan. Carlo's inner dialogue, what should I do? Ponti's heart condition is a constant worry, and any delay could be life-threatening. But this American couple is in a dire situation, too. Can I really turn my back on them when they need help? In that moment of hesitation, a resolute determination overcame Carlo. It was as if a divine plan had descended upon him like a bolt of lightning. An idea so clear and purposeful formed in his mind, an optimal plan, straight from the divine. Carlo's inner dialogue, I can do this. I'll take this couple to our cottage. Settle Robert's pregnant wife comfortably in one of our rooms. Then, I'll drive like the wind to fetch the doctor. He can assist both Ponti's heart condition and Robert's pregnant wife. It's a plan that feels guided by something greater than myself, by God's hand. With this newfound clarity and determination, Carlo turned to Robert. His voice, once torn by uncertainty, now rang with conviction. Carlo's resolute response, I'll help you. Let's get your wife to my cottage. As Carlo quickly got in Robert's car, they drove to his cottage. Meanwhile, the rain continued its relentless assault. Carlo and Robert were both soaked to the bone, but Carlo's decision had been made. He couldn't forsake his duty to help those in need, even in the midst of his own crisis. Back at the cottage, Ponti continued to hold the candle, her prayers now mingling with deep concern for Carlo's safety. Her voice, filled with longing and love, carried through the storm. Ponti's loving plea, "Carlo, please come back to me. Be safe out there." Carlo's act of compassion, born from the crucible of the storm, was a profound turning point in his life. As he drove through the rain-soaked night with the American couple, he felt a sense of connection that transcended nationality and prejudice. The storm outside mirrored the tempest within him, as Carlo confronted a choice that had the power to bridge the chasm between past resentment and a newfound connection. The rain continued to pour, blurring the boundaries between old grievances and the possibility of a brighter future. And in that moment, amidst the chaos of the storm, Carlo's heart was filled with hope. It was hope that love and compassion could triumph over even the fiercest tempests, and that, perhaps, a path to redemption and reconciliation lay ahead.
The Cyclist, by Erik Røde, 1755. Read by Annika J. Gandhi.